Kenya now, and the demolition of hundreds of unsafe buildings has begun in Nairobi. The buildings are coming down in Huruma, where a collapse last week saw more than 40 people killed. The first building targeted was a network of 8 low-rise buildings housing around 600 people. Residents have been voicing their distress. They don't know where to go. CCTV's Robert Nagila with this update.
The demolition work began in earnest Friday afternoon. More than 200 buildings are considered unsafe, most of them in poorer areas of the Kenyan capital. Hundreds of residents remained in their homes though, but the sound of the bulldozers spurred them to get out.
The disaster prevention and mitigation preparedness is key than waiting for response and recovery.
We are doing it very meticulously when we ensure that indeed the buildings have been evacuated. There is nobody.
So this is the current situation in Huruma, a suburb in Nairobi, where at least 78 buildings have been earmarked for demolition. Now, the government has ordered all residents in condemned buildings to vacate the area by end of today. However, some of the residents say they have no place to go. Cornelius Kisilu is one of them. I find him outside what remains of his former home.
We have been told to leave. We don't know where to go. The rains are here, we have no house, nowhere to go.
And it appears that all landlords have left to apparently avoid paying back deposits.
All the landlords have disappeared. Only one is around and he has told the tenants to see their agent.
It's been a week now since the building collapse in Huruma. The death toll keeps climbing and scores more missing. It's highlighted the importance of these demolitions. But with so many people likely to spend the night in the cold and wet, the question now, who's to blame for their plight? Robert Nagila, CCTV, Nairobi, Kenya.
Well, the husband of a woman rescued from the rubble on Thursday has been speaking out. Stephen Onyango says his wife was in good spirits, but that doctors had already told her she has lost the baby. She was pregnant. She was one of the 4 rescued from the rubble on Thursday. The survivors were taken to the Kenyatta National Hospital, and 24-year-old Elizabeth Knight Onyango was 8 months pregnant at the time. Rescue efforts continue for at least 70 people who are still missing.
A doctor pulled me aside and told me, "Your wife is here in the theater, and when she was in the collapsed building, the baby died in her stomach and we have removed it." He showed me the baby and I told him it was okay. My wife is not in a critical state. She is okay because when I walked in, the doctors asked her if she could recognize me, and she told them that I was her husband and that she knew me.
Robert Nagila, who's been following this development for us, is joining me now in our Nairobi studios for more perspective on that story. Robert, it's been about a week now since that building collapsed. What's the latest with the rescue efforts? Where have that reached so far?
Well, Beatrice, here's what we know at this particular moment. The operations are set to end tomorrow, that's Saturday. Safe to say that they've now moved from a rescue effort to a recovery effort, which means that at this particular moment they believe that there are no more survivors in the rubble at that particular site. One of the reasons for that is yesterday we had some somewhat heavy rains. This morning as well, somewhat heavy rains. So it would be very difficult to envisage that there could still be any survivors in there, because any bits of spaces left in there are basically filled with water by now.
Well, Robert, it is quite amazing, though, that so many people were rescued from that building. I mean, given the fact or the manner in which that building came crashing down, what do we know about that?
Well, a miracle is what some people are calling it. The fact that after 3-4 days, there was the little girl who was found. 6 days later, you've got 3 more survivors. Basically a miracle, isn't it? Now, one of the reasons for this, of course, is the fact that since last weekend's rain, when this building collapsed where there were floods, we've not had any rainfall since then. This has given the rescuers an opportunity to carry out their work, some of it very, very delicate, and be able to find some of those survivors as well. Another reason could be that some of the survivors were on higher floors, because remember, the building caved in. So those on the lower floors, it's thought, as experts were explaining to us, would not have survived. But those who were on the upper floors had a good chance of survival.
Well, some people did have a good chance of survival, and Huruma is one of the poorer suburbs of Nairobi. But of course, we've seen in your package now quite a number of buildings have been demolished by government authorities. So how have people, though, been reacting to this query on the building structures? How have they been reacting to the way the government, the authorities have responded to this?
There's a lot of anger on the ground, not just by those affected, but other Kenyans as well. I was at the site today. And one of the things that we noticed on one of the buildings which has been condemned and is due to be brought down was on one of the floors, what the contractor simply did was put a wooden slab down and then put concrete on top of it, and which was surprising because there were some county government officials there who also were surprised. And the question we put to them was, but you're the one supposed to be carrying out the inspections to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now, for a lot of the people, you're looking at about 78 buildings to be brought down in Huruma. Many of those people say that they're not sure where they're going to go tonight. They say that they've tried to contact their landlords. The landlords have disappeared, so they can't get their rental deposit back. So there's a big question mark there. However, some are also saying, look, this is a last-minute syndrome. For the last 1 week, the government has been asking those in the affected buildings to move, and they didn't do so until the bulldozer moved in today, Beatrice.
Right, Robert, just very briefly, though, you did mention a number of people are claiming they don't have anywhere to go. Is there any provision being given to these people, given the fact that it was just a week ago that they were asked to move from the buildings that would be demolished?
Not that we know of at the moment, but we know that there are several government agencies on the ground as we speak. You've got the National Disaster Agency on the ground. You've got the Red Cross on the ground. So these are some of the agencies that are likely to assist those who are not able to move away today. The biggest problem, very quickly, Beatrice, is the weather. If it does rain today, some of those pictures that we brought out, you saw that people still had a lot of their belongings out. Where they're going to sleep, the children, for example, what they're going to eat, where they're going to cook. So some questions there, and I believe that we will begin to see government agencies moving in tomorrow to assist those affected.
All right, Robert Nagila for us here in Nairobi.